A lot goes into group dynamics. So let's start with defining what a group is. A group involves 3 or more people. They have a common purpose. They're interdependent upon one another. They take on roles and they influence one another. So let's start with the interdependence. Interdependence really differentiates a group. They need one another in order to reach their ultimate goal. If one person isn't there, then that's going to hurt the group. And somebody else is going to need to step in and shift and help. So for example, if your quarterback on the football team is hurt and another quarterback comes in to take that spot, everyone's going to have to adjust to the new quarterback in order to win the game and in order to work as a team and reach those goals. Within groups, there are roles that people take on. These are consistent behaviors that people will have every time the group meets. There's formal and informal. So formal roles would be ones that would be assigned. Perhaps you're the treasurer, you're the secretary, those types of things. There can also be informal roles that are they just emerge. So maybe you're the class clown, you're the tension reliever, so you're the one that sort of jokes around. Well, no one's going to assign that role to you. It's just something that emerges because that's your personality. There are social roles. So the people who take on the social roles are just trying to make sure everybody gets along. They can kind of be that mediator from time to time. They're probably the ones who are going to organize the icebreakers and the social events and things like that. Task roles, this is going to help to get the job done. And lots of people will take on task roles. One specific one could be a treasurer. A treasurer has to keep track of the budget, keep track of receipts, and make sure that they're not going over budget. And then there are dysfunctional roles. These are people who maybe they're an off-tasker. They're always interrupting. They're talking about what's going to happen this weekend. They're just not focused. Maybe they're a negative Nelly. They're always talking about the glass being half full and how they're not making progress and how this group is silly, etc. Those are the dysfunctional roles, and they definitely exist in any group. Now there's norms. These are rules, that a group takes on. There's explicit and implicit. So explicit are norms or rules that are stated. They're probably in our bylaws or something like that. The implicit rules are unstated. So unspoken, but they're there and they develop. So for example, maybe we always start at 1 o'clock for our group meeting, but everyone knows it's always going to be about 1:05 before we really get started. That's not a rule that's stated anywhere, but we know it's an implicit rule because we just always know we're going to get started about 5 minutes late. There are different types of norms, task, procedural, and social. So the task roles are just handling the job that needs to get done and are really focused on the work and the steps and the processes involved. Procedural is how the group is going to run. How are we going to start our meetings? How are we going to delegate from there? How are we going to function? And the social is just how are we going to interact with each other? Are we calling each other by first name, by nickname? Just what are those social things that we're going to feel are acceptable? Tuchman has Tuchman stages of a formation of a group, and a group at any one given time is only in one of these stages. So the first one is forming. This is just the first time you meet, you get to know each other, kind of figuring out what those social norms are going to be. Small talk, nothing really serious, nothing really deep. Then you get to storming. So this is the beginning of trying to tackle the task at hand. This is when conflict is going to arise because maybe no one has really taken on roles yet, or maybe someone's trying to take on the big role and is just kind of steamrolling through everyone. And so there's tension and there's arguments and there's conflict in this stage. Then you get to norming, and that's where you are planning out what needs to happen. You're delegating things, figuring out short-term plan, long-term plan. What are the planning stages? And you're probably going to be in this stage for a pretty good amount of time. Then you're going to go to performing, and this is where the actual work is going to get done. And this one for sure will be the longest stage of all the stages, because this is where the meat of the work is really accomplished. And then when that's done, you can actually adjourn. And this is when you officially say, this group is done and we can finish, we can wrap up, we're done. One area of group work that is always really irritating to students is someone that's called a social loafer. A social loafer is why we hate groups, and it's people who really aren't pulling their weight. There could be reasons for this. One, they're just lazy and they just want to take the easy route out. Maybe they think, hey, I'm going to get the same grade everybody else gets on this group project, so why should I put any effort into it? It could be that they're not feeling confident about the tasks that are at hand for them. Maybe they're inadequate and they're feeling that way, and that's not a good thing. Or maybe they're feeling like their contributions are not really going to matter, so why should they even bother? Those last two are things that other group members can definitely do to help that group member so that they don't turn into that social loafer. So I know that a lot of times students have negative opinions about group work, but please keep in mind that group work is so vital. It doesn't matter what career or job you go into, you will always be placed into group work, and it's really important to be able to know how to be a productive group member.